All right, it is that time once again to hit the books alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. I am merely Brad Powers. We got producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips behind the scenes, bringing up the odds screens for us as we make some bets. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking the Big 12, or is it the Big 14, or is it 13 teams or 12 teams? I can't keep track of who's in and out of this conference. But with that being said, there are 4 new teams to the league this year. We'll probably have varying opinions because this is a league outside of maybe Texas, and there's not a lot of separation between the bottom 10, 12 teams as far as an overall power rating. So looking forward to talking with you, Knish. But before we do dive into it, let me remind everybody that Hit the Books is brought to you by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to use multiple sports books and always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. Save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Download the app today. If you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/hitthebooks or hit the link in the description. If you sign up through the page, it helps support grow the show. Knish, Big 12.
Big 12, baby.
Dive into this here because it's the final year. We're going to have Texas and Oklahoma, the flag bearers of the conference now to varying degrees. Texas more in name than results, but Oklahoma's dominating this conference for the better part of 2 decades. And we'll start with Texas and Oklahoma because I think most people are going to have them atop the overall power ratings of the conference. We'll start with Texas, a classic underachieving team last decade plus. I mean, we're still waiting for them to be back. I'm here to tell you, Knish, this might be the year that they are back.
I know.
We'll see. I hope they are. The bankroll will take a hit if they're not because I have bet Texas over their win total, over 9.5. I bet them to win this conference. I've bet them in individual game of the year markets. I have a lot riding on this Texas team. I like this Texas team. I think Quinn Ewers he has to take a step forward this year. Otherwise, he's going to be riding the pine with Arch Manning and Malik Murphy backing him up. I think the defense made some strides last year, and I think they'll continue to do so. Bijan Robinson's gone, but I still like the talent that they have there at running back, and I think the receiver position, you throw in the tight ends, it's one of the better group of receivers in the entire country. Then you look at the schedule. I mean, look, at least on paper, as we're recording this in late July, they're significantly better than everybody else in the conference, including Oklahoma. So what's your thoughts? Are you in agreement, or are you a little cautious with what this program's been the last decade?
I mean, it's twofold, right? I think, number one, as you're meant to, Big 12, top to bottom, is just, the most equitable Power 5. There's no Ohio State versus Rutgers. There's no Alabama Vandy. Even the conferences in the teams in the bottom tier can still come up, and I think you're going to see a ton of great games this year. It's funny for our league that, is struggling to, get a TV deal, stay together, or any of that, even with the adders, that I think it's the most competitive conference, no doubt, of all the Power 5. But, and I'm with, hashtag Texas is back is the troll, the cliche troll for the last decade or so here. But I agree, they're so loaded. If you buy into all of the offseason Quinn Ewers hype, which, you look in the spring game, you hear all the practice reports, you shave the head, he's finally seems to have bought it. That seemed to be their number one downfall last year was his play in the second half of the season, whether he was hurt, whether he just seemed to be looked like Brett Favre dropping on his back foot, throwing crap up. It did seem like, the team and that kind of had this, fall off second half. But man, from a talent standpoint, absolutely loaded. The only cautionary thing is obviously, we've talked about them early on about that number versus Bama and thinking they're live in that game and thinking if they win that game, we've put some Quinn Heisman tickets in 20-25 to 1. Yeah. If they win that Bama game, he's going to be 3 to 1. So it's all the hype train is going to be out of control if they win that game. Not easy, obviously, in Tuscaloosa, but I think they're on par with that Bama team. The issue I would have is, as we're saying, there's no Northwestern, there's no Rutgers, no Van. You're going Kansas, Oklahoma, at Houston, BYU, Kansas State, TCU. It's tough to go through 6, 7, 8 weeks in a row having to be up when you're not getting anybody, any of these, absolute scrubs that some of the other Power Fives have at the bottom. So again, think they're all primed and ready to go. Cannot wait for that game in Tuscaloosa to see if they're the real deal. But I think from Sark's perspective, from long term, like, does he got to win 10 games this year? Does he got? I mean, 8-4. I don't know if he's coming back because let me tell you, with the money they're pumping into this program, they're not pumping it in to be 8-4.
Do we want any exposure on this show on Texas? Because, I obviously have a ton. You mentioned the Ewers. I even threw a little flyer on Texas to win the title. Are we doing anything here? Are we going over 9.5 wins? Or are we betting a conference future on this Texas team?
I mean, this is a cop-out, but I think, if you're a loyal watcher and listener of the show, you should already have some of the exposure we've recommended at much better prices than what's available now. There's some like plus 105 or 115, 120 to win the conference. Doesn't really strike me. And I'm not, I don't want to invest in 105 to win. I mean, I'll leave it to you on that one. To me, that's, I just think the conference is so tough that of the wrong loss here or there, they should win it. But again, 105 doesn't make me want to run to the window. And I think that the 9.5s are pretty juiced out there now with a game at Alabama where the margin of error if you don't get that one is significantly lower. Fair
enough. That is Joey Knish. Let's talk. You know what? I'll own that one.
Okay.
Producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips, because I would have made that bet. If that's the first time I saw a Texas win total and saw minus 113, that's at a Canby book, over 9.5 wins. I'll own it. I'll take Texas over 9.5. I made that bet. So, I'm comfortable with that. I mean, they could lose to Alabama, lose another game. I mean, they don't have Sark doesn't have a great track record, and neither does Texas. But my goodness, I just think if Ewers stays healthy, I don't know. I mean, they are better than everybody else, including this next team we're going to talk about, Oklahoma, who had, no sugarcoating it, had a disastrous first year under Venables. I mean, when you have a losing record for the first time in nearly a quarter century, there's no other way to put it. Now, on the positive side, you expect him to be improved this year. He brings in a great transfer and recruiting class. They were close. I mean, they lost 5 games by 1 possession a year ago. You flip on the bowl game and watch it. You're watching them against a good Florida State program. Oklahoma's got several starters out, and you're like, holy hell, how is this team 6-6 when you saw all the talent level? They're playing with backup left tackle, right tackle, a pair of freshman running backs. So all those guys that were playing in the bowl game are playing this upcoming season. I think the schedule is very manageable, including the non-conference, where there'll be significant favorites in all 3 games. SMU game might be a little tricky. And then you get the conference play. Yeah, I don't think there's a ton of slam dunks. Obviously, there'll be an underdog against Texas. But, I have them favored in 11 of their 12 games, Knish. And, it's no longer available. Over 8.5 is in pocket for me. I've even seen some people recommend over 9.5. I'm not there yet. I don't trust Venables to recommend over 9.5, but I do think this is an improved program. Well, what say you?
Yeah, no, totally. I think we're in lockstep here. You bring a decent amount back. You bring in some good transfer portal. You had horrible variance last year. Some of that might be, first-time head coach, trying to run the ship there. Hopefully some of that will be, ironed out here. And as you said, even though we just talked about how, top to bottom, the conference is pretty set, they got about as good of a draw as you could ask for in terms of, who they have. UCF's coming to them. TCU's coming to them. Obviously, the Texas, the Red River in there. But, it's very manageable. The non-con, significantly manageable. Shouldn't have any problems with that. I agree with you on the early 8.5. Some of the numbers early were light. And they've got, all of the teams, all of the newbies that are coming in. Some of the teams, I think Oklahoma State's way down. They've got West Virginia at the bottom. They kind of escaped, having to play some of the teams, the Texas, the Kansas State that are in the upper tier of the Big 12 and basically got everybody in the bottom tier plus a manageable non-con. They're live here. The question is, if they lose to Texas, what's their margin of error for the rest of the season to be able to get to a Big 12 title game? That could be tougher. But from a win total perspective, I'm with you. I think the team will be better. I think they had, second year should be having a talent boom. Probably a little bit better bounces. A team that I would buy. I just don't think what we're talking about here, the way to play him was as you said, the over 8.5 early, maybe an over 9 there. I'm not as rich on 9.5, but do I think, do I want to play 3-1 Big 12? No. Do I think they're, a team that can really make a run at like a national title playoff run? No. None of the Heisman stuff for me. So yeah, I think, the market's kind of, pounded them into shape in terms of where they should be.
Pounded a lot of teams in the shape at this point. That's what happens when you open these markets up in May, and we've seen about 3 months of betting into some of these. Let's talk about the team that made that surprise run last year. The defending, the team that I don't want to bring it up, but somehow found a way to beat Michigan in a Fiesta Bowl and make a national championship game. The TCU Horned Frogs, who obviously lose a lot, to say the least, starting with Max Duggan, but I still think there's some talent left, and I mean, obviously, people forget that Max Duggan wasn't even supposed to be the starter. I think that ended up being a blessing in disguise when Chandler Morris got hurt in the Colorado game. I'm not sure that he gives them as far as a leadership aspect that Duggan did, but they do lose a lot. But they bring in several Alabama transfers. They still got some of their key linebackers on the defensive side of the ball. I like the Bryles hire after losing Garrett Riley. I still think they'll have a high-powered offense. Schedule-wise, it's tough with the Big 12 because so many teams are tightly together. But I like the early part of the schedule: Colorado, Nicholls State, at Houston, SMU, West Virginia, at Iowa State, BYU. I mean, it doesn't take too much of an imagination to say that this team's capable of going 6-1, maybe even 7-0 to start. So I thought 8.5 was way too high to open, but not that I'm trying to, go for a middle here, but the current 7.5, I would actually lean over. I think it's an 8-4 team.
No, I'm with you. I mean, listen, did they have the ultimate line? Now, this is people are going to say, it's sour grapes from, Joey Harbaugh over here. But, I mean, did they have, like, the luck box miracle season of all time last year? Yes. Was that a national title team? No. And I think you saw that when you lost by 80 points to Georgia, when it finally came crashing down there. But hey, listen, you win the game. That's the magic of college football. You win the game on the schedule, you should get paid off for that. So give them credit for keeping it together and having that run. But in terms of the year follow, I mean, also you mentioned it, like, they started the wrong guy to start the season, and it took him getting hurt to them actually to go to Duggan for them to have that season, or they probably would have dropped a few games with that bum Chandler Morris. I'm not a Morris guy. I think that too much talent walked out the door. I agree. I think the coordinator backfill of Bryles is a good idea, but between the talent drain and some of the coaching drain and some of the I think that's how it all evens out. But that's what you say in the gambling world. It all evens out when you get some bad breaks. They had every break you could possibly imagine last year. I think there's some come to earth aspect. But the first half of the season's an absolute cakewalk. So yeah, they should be. As long as they keep it together, you should be challenging for an 8-4. And I think 8-4 is a good season for this team. So yeah, at a lightly juiced 7.5, I'd probably lean on the over. But it's not something I've invested in either way. I just think they're a middle tier, upper tier 7-8 win-ish team that you've said. Another one, cliche markets pounded into shape that I think is about where they should be. But not a ceiling team to me. Last year's magic will not be repeated.
Yeah, full agreement. Luck factor, like you mentioned, probably goes the other way this year. Let's talk about the defending Big 12 champs. I almost said this about TCU, but I almost forgot that Kansas State was the team that beat TCU in the Big 12 championship game a year ago before succumbing to the Crimson Tide in the Sugar Bowl. But Kansas State comes in, also like TCU, loses a lot of players, most notably. And Deuce Vaughn isn't walking through that door, even though it was a small door. Looking at Kansas State, I guess it's a program that I think has a high floor, maybe not necessarily a high ceiling. I think they take a step back, but Will Howard, I think, will be okay at quarterback. And all 5 starters back on the offensive line. They lose some pass rush studs on the defensive side of the ball. As long as they can find someone that can, run the football a little bit, and they do welcome that Florida State transfer, Trayshawn Ward, that I think will be all right. I don't think they fall too far back. I think, like TCU, this is kind of an 8-4 type of team. I've seen some disparity I took some over 7.5. I saw some people play back that I really respect. Tailgate, I think, had under 8.5.
Yeah.
Again, I think the truth is probably right in the middle, 8-14. What say you?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, now, granted, as we were just talking, the difference here is, when you've got Troy and at Missouri, I mean, to start it off here, that could be a little bit more problematic. And they've got some tougher guys. I mean, they got to go to Texas Tech. They got to go to Texas. So they didn't get, some of the nice blessings, from the schedule gods here that some of the other programs might get. I will say, though, it's a style of ball that I think just really is effective in this conference, that a lot of teams don't play, that's really difficult to match up against, that they're able to pound some of these, mediocre defenses, and defense that are, the 3-3-5s and that are used to playing some of these spread passing attacks there, that they kind of play their own brand, that North Dakota State brand that they brought in, football that's difficult to play against when they're bringing back the starters on the offensive line and they just want to absolutely pound the rock at you and play defense. I don't know how even under Bill Snyder is a team that consistently for 15 years in a row has outperformed their talent level. They don't recruit well. They somehow are able to pluck kids, FCS, JUCO, and that, and put rosters together, and it's still working. But I will say, I agree. Some of the truth lies in the middle here. Is it a team that I want to thinks they're just? I mean, this is TCU all over again, right? Is it a team that I want to play at? I mean, there's 5-1, 6-1 out there. I am not a buyer on any of these Big 12 futures. I think that. Yeah. I mean, to me, I don't want to I think that's one of the worst Power 5 bets you can make at the price. Them to win the Big 12 this year at some of the prices that are out there just because they won it last year. The win total, right pounded into shape to me, but it's a team that I don't think the ceiling with the schedule and some of the losses this year is what it is, could be for what it was for them last year. So yeah, they're just basically an observe for me in a week-to-week team, because I don't see any scenario where they're repeating as Big 12 champs.
Agree. Let's see if we can find some. Because we're meandering a little bit as far as, and again, I think the market's beating a lot of this into shape, and it's a tough conference because I think it's really going to come down. There's going to be a bunch of close games for almost every team. I'm anxious to see, though, your thoughts on this next team, Texas Tech, because if you're a loyal listener to Hit the Books, I think one of my first conference bets that we made was on this team, 20-1 to win the Big 12. I think if you're looking for a program that can maybe make that surprise Big 12 championship game appearance, I think it is Texas Tech. Now, was it one of my favorite conference future bets that I made? No. But, I mean, I see the ability here to at least contend with the big boys in the conference. Number one, I really like the head coach and the coaching staff. Joey McGuire understands Texas, has done a good job of recruiting. We'll see if Tyler Shuck at quarterback can stay healthy. But he looks like he'll be the guy. If he's not, then they got a guy behind him that has experience in Baron Morton. One thing that I watched in the spring game that I took away, you think, they lose a first-round top 5 overall pick. They're going to struggle with the pass rush, losing a guy like Wilson. I actually think that they're going to be just fine on that. I trust Tim DeRuyter as far as the 3-4 guy. Keep in mind, I mean, he was at Texas A&M when they had all their pass rushers, like Von Miller and all them guys that came out of there. But there's a couple of guys they have on the defensive front that I think can generate pressure. It's a big team on both sides of the ball as far as the line of scrimmage. And I don't know. I mean, this is a conference, like we said, that's kind of wide open. I don't think like the Oklahomas, the TCUs, the Kansas States of the world are that much better than this Texas Tech team. So I bet a little over 7 wins. Obviously, that's taken away. And again, I bet a little over 20-1. Are you with me on this program? I think this is a program to watch in the future.
I agree. This is not, your older brothers, Texas Tech here, where they were, basically, the Mike Leach Texas Tech and the Cliff Kingsbury Texas Tech that, would love to run it up on the scoreboard, but, they were going 6-6 every year, giving up 80 points a week here. I agree with you. They have done a sneaky good job of cultivating talent and identifying defensive talent and really, making themselves more of a force and not just being this, finesse program. And that they've definitely gone under this, transformation to change the identity and be a team that can actually compete for Big 12 championships and that. If it was, I think they're kind of a victim of just being in an extremely deep league this year. I'd like this team, even better if they, could kind of get to a conference that didn't have the depth of it. But I agree with that. I don't think there's any separation between. I think they're even better than a few of these middle tier teams. I think you can make the case for me that I don't know if they're yet. Kansas State is a team that being priced at 5-1 when I'm not sure that they're better than Texas Tech whatsoever. So. Again, you shop at 20, you got to shop around. Don't mind a little sprinkle. There's a couple of these teams in the the lower tier that I think we'll get to here. And this would be the first one that price wise, probably if they hit their ceiling, I think can be right up there with a chance at a Big 12 title game.
Yeah, I do. When I mentioned how big they were, I just want to put a stat to this because I went through their roster. They have 22 guys that are 300 plus pounds. Put that, Georgia's a really big team. Georgia has 23, Texas Tech 22. Massive team, especially compared to the rest of the Big 12. The two guys on the outside, Miles Cole, Steve Linton. Keep an eye on those two guys. I think we'll get a good barometer, Knish. Week 2, Oregon, Texas Tech hosting them. 12-1 as far as conference futures. No, I'd like 15-1. If you want pizza money on 12-1 to win the conference, I'm not going to stop you there. It's over 7.5 plus 118. No. I think there's other bets to be made here as far as the Big 12 goes. As far as Now
there's some other folks out there. I know you like that Week 1 at Laramie. There's some other folks in the industry that might
love Wyoming.
Might like to chirp back and forth that like Wyoming a lot, and that's one that's going back and forth here. I'm not a Wyoming guy. I kind of like Texas Tech to go in there and get it done there, but. That's one that I know there's very differing opinions on this game, Week 1.
Yeah, there is. I don't get it because, Wyoming's not that program. I get it. You got look ahead to Oregon. And if you asked me 10 years ago, my handicap on it, I'd probably be on Wyoming. But, man, the Jimmies and Joes are so different, even between a program like Texas Tech and Wyoming. Look, when Wyoming's had to step up in class like the last 9 or 10 games against Power 5 competition, average losses by 4 touchdowns. So I just think Texas Tech is far superior to Wyoming. Wyoming's got a ton of returning experience, but they don't have the experience level. Doesn't matter for a program like Wyoming. They're just, I don't know. They don't have a lot of high twitch athletes, if that makes any sense. Not a lot of wiggle on that team. I don't think they match up well.
Or a quarterback that can complete passes.
I know.
That would be my biggest issue with them is how are you going to keep up with any type of potent offense that the Mountain West is a little bit of a different challenge. So yeah, I'm with you. I played some 13 and some 13.5 out there. I think under 14 is a decent look for Week 1 there.
So that's a good promo opportunity. Knish and I will be back on a weekly basis starting August the 7th as far as hit the books. That Monday, August the 7th. That game right there might be one of the first bets we give out because we're going to start really diving in to these Week 0 and Week 1 games. Keep an eye on that one. And here's another. A lot of people told me the same thing last year about Wyoming. They're playing, Illinois, you can't lay double digits to Illinois, and Illinois just fucking smashed that team. So I don't get it. That might be a little teaser. You might want to jump out in front of it because I got a sneaky suspicion it closes 14. Just letting you know. All right, I'll do my damnness to make sure it does. I'll put it that way. So, all right, let's talk a few other teams here before we wrap it up. A couple of intriguing teams to me. Baylor, what to make of them? You're talking about a team that won the conference 2 years ago. They have a losing record last year. They get embarrassed by Air Force in a bowl game. Dave Aranda, I think, is a good coach. I certainly think he's good on the defense side of the ball, but the defense was kind of a big disappointment. And then you look at this year's team, they lose a ton at the line of scrimmage. That was kind of their meat and potatoes the last couple of years. And I got to tell you, Knish, I'm not a big fan of the quarterback, Blake Shapen. I don't think he has a lot of upside as far as ability. So this is a team, believe it or not. If I don't like your quarterback in this league that's going to have a bunch of close games, I'm going to be a seller. So, it wasn't my favorite season win total bet, but I took a little under 7.5. What say you?
Yeah, it's not. I did back them. A little bit. I know we've talked about on the show a Week 1. That's more of a Texas State fade, though. But no, they've got Utah on the non-con, And they, like I said, they've got, most of the big boys. I think they miss Oklahoma, but the Texas Tech, the Kansas State, the TCU. So the internal schedule, I think they've at UCF too, the internal schedule did them no favor. And as you're saying, it's, it was a year under Randa that really kind of raised some red flags in terms of what it could look like going forward, because they didn't bring in a ton of they lost some of that experience they had. So I know, like, it's that under 7.5 way juice now there. That's another one that's pounded in, but I think that was it's one of the teams where, now with the league depth and some of the other teams that we've talked are, trending upwards or at least, kind of on this level. Baylor's one that, from the outside, looking in, they would be one of those that seem to be kind of falling back a bit. So maybe, the year two they can kind of change the direction, but I don't love, the current navigation of where they're heading. And it's a program that kind of punched above its weight, for some years that it's, maybe a little bit of a tougher place here that's kind of falling back, water finding its level. So I'm not laying minus 188 on the under, that's one that I think 7-5, 6-6 is kind of the realm for this team.
Let's talk another team that there's some disparity in the market. And you alerted me to this. So let me give the old, inside information. We used to call it the inside information play of the week in my Phil Steele days. We didn't have inside information. It was just marketing ploy. But
surprise teams, baby.
Yeah. Iowa State. I was a big buyer early on in the process as far as over 5.5, because not that I'm a big Matt Campbell fan, but you talked about the luck factor being in TCU's and Kansas State's favor last year. It was not in Iowa State's favor. I mean, chalk it up to a really poor offense the last couple of years. They have not fared well in close games each of the last couple of years. They've been a disappointment the last couple of years. But, man, when you play defense like they do, you're in every game. And I thought that this was a 6-6 caliber team. Now there's a lot of rumors that at least came out in May there about who's going to be gone with the gambling scandal and with both Iowa and Iowa State. And there's some significant rumors that the quarterback for Iowa State is going to be involved. So play a little under 6 after that news. I thank you, Knish. You alerted me to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, we keep waiting for. The rumors are, between kind of, and a number of people in the industry have heard, so it's not just like we're, making up out of thin air here. A number of plugged in people are kind of hearing the same thing where it could, but we're getting so, we're not that we're a month away here. So if they're going to announce these, sanctions here, I would expect it, if it's going to come down, and then I don't know what, it's one of those where if they actually lose their quarterback, I've heard a number of off the linemen involved, upwards of, 30, the list of 30 guys. How long are the suspensions going to be for? Because this is a team that, they jump right into it. They got Northern Iowa, who's not a pushover. Then they got Iowa coming in. They got Ohio. They really don't have a game on the schedule where it's like, oh, boom, win type of deal. So, yeah, it could, especially if it gets late. I don't know. This is one that obviously, we talked about it. We played some 6 under. It would be if the information, really starts going public and these guys are going to miss the season. It's a season that just could be kind of a lost year for them. Where they're
Does Matt Campbell survive it if they go 2-10, 3-9?
That's the other thing. The Campbell is a guy. He probably should have took the 15 jobs that were out there for him for a while. So yeah, I would still, I know some people have played that Iowa game of the year versus them versus Iowa State. I know there's been some under. It's one of those I would kind of wait to see the information now at 5.5, and if it's leaking, just run out there and find it and blast it if you can.
We talk about the 4 newbies quickly. I think we'll probably be in agreement for the most part here, but I think I might surprise you and see if you agree with a couple of the win totals that I'm going to recommend. UCF, BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston all come into the league. I think UCF out of the 4 has the highest upside, not only from a talent perspective, but I think that even though they're coming from the American, I just think you look at the talent, you look at the speed. You look at it. I don't like Gus Malzahn that much, but I don't think he'll be out of his realm coaching. I mean, after he did an admirable job at Auburn, don't believe me? Look what Auburn's become after he left a couple years ago. So I think they're fine. As far as an adjustment, I bet over 6.5. I'm pretty confident in that one. I think it's a minimum a 7-win team there for UCF. If we can still find over 6.5, I'm cool with that. It might be juiced out, though, at this point. I originally thought Cincinnati and Houston's win totals were too low at 4.5. I originally played over 4.5 Houston and Cincinnati. I'm here to tell you, if you can find Cincinnati, I think FanDuel might have it. I'm now a seller of everything that I've read. They've had some guys coaching that they replaced the entire staff, obviously, with Satterfield. Some guys have left after he'd already hired them. They're one of the least experienced teams in the country. I'm not like what I'm reading as far as Cincinnati, and then I plug in their updated power rating, and you talk about not having too many winnable games. I mean, outside of week one, I mean, you can make a case that this team could be an underdog in maybe 10 of their 12 games. So I am advocating under 5.5 wins for Cincinnati. What say you?
Yeah, I'm with. I mean, to give you two, I like both of those. The UCF over was probably, the early number was probably my favorite win total of the conference so far. I know the 6.5 is pretty juice now, but I mean, they've got 2 free wins in the non-con plus a Boise State team that I'm not a huge fan of. And I love. I mean, I love. It's a team that is one of the most difficult places to play. I think the bounce house and the home field advantage they get. They don't play Texas. And you've got a number of teams. I mean, they got Houston coming to them. They got West Virginia coming to them. They've got Oklahoma State coming to them. All teams that I'm a seller on. So I think this is a team even that I played a little pizza money, as Mr. Powers would call it, on them to win the Big 12 at, I think it was 60-1, maybe 50-1.
There you go.
I think at anything 40 or better, they're worth a little bit of a sprinkle. Schedule sets up okay. As you said, highest ceiling team of the newbies by far. That Central South Florida talent there, a ton of speed on the roster. And so I like their sport. The system they run, tough team to play. I think the schedule sets up all right. So yeah, I like the over 6.5. What is it? It's minus 160 is a little tough to stomach there, but I do think this is a team that's going to win 7 with the potential to win a 9 if things break right and they're a good team.
Let's have some fun and do instead of like a smaller quarter unit or whatever on 40 or 50-1 if we can find to win the conference. I just think
I'm with you there.
Fun.
And then the Cincinnati
they made
under
the
as well.
conference title game. So let's do that, Zach, as far as UCF instead of laying the 160. And again, we will go down with Cincinnati under 5.5 wins. Just don't see this team getting to bowl eligibility in year one. What do we make of BYU? I'm a seller. I bet under 6. I've seen as low as 4.5 now. Again, I mean, just to put in perspective why I'm meandering a lot of this, out of the 14 teams, I have 12 of them projected between like 5 and 8 wins. So it's really going to come down to quarterback play, how you do in close games. And, boy, Dana got quarterback question marks. Surprised Donovan Smith, the Texas Tech transfer. And Dana Holgerson's not one of my favorite guys as far as game and clock management goes to win a bunch of close games against upgraded competition. So what's your thoughts on Houston and BYU?
I remember us last year, just had so many angry Holgo tweets of I needed therapeutically to just retwitter and see people trashing Holgerson because at a game I would bet him and they're he's doing something. So he's hey, everybody's getting a personal foul. He's a lunatic on the sideline. He's just so. He's one of my least favorite, the coaches in the entire sport, especially backing his frustrations. Yeah. So I'm with you. I think this is a little bit. I know Houston's tried to put some money into the program, and they're in a decent spot to recruit all that. But yeah, no, I think this is definitely the bottom of the Big 12, and a team that is probably biting off a little bit more they can chew. And if things go two takes for the year, baby, and one of them might be that. I think either one of Mike Gundy or Dana Holgerson or both are fired after this year.
There you go.
I'm a big seller on both, and I think the Gundy era is I know we didn't get a lot of the Oklahoma State stuff. Again, we don't want to go over the stale numbers. That was one of the bigger players to start with. Oklahoma
7,
State.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, on under 7. That's one out there. I think there's some light juice on 6.5. That's probably one of the market disagreements I would have is. I think Oklahoma State could be potentially like bad. I mean, Alex Bowman was a guy who at Michigan was like, it was like fourth string. It was like the guy who would like come in there. They were letting like the walk-ons come in before him. I thought he was going to retire, and now he's going to Oklahoma State and he's starting quarterback. So that's a program that I think is 100% wrong direction. And Mike Gundy, if the year goes bad enough, might be looking for a job here.
I agree. Under 7, Oklahoma State was one of my favorite bets. If we can still find Zach 6.5. Decent juice on that one. We can go with that one. I'm definitely in agreement there on Oklahoma State. Seller there. Kansas, we haven't mentioned them, and then we'll wrap this up. The Jayhawks obviously ascended, but lost a lot of steam at the end of last season. As good as the start was, they were competitive down the stretch, but they lost a bunch of games down the stretch. A lot of return production. I think we all like Lance Leipold. We all like the quarterback. Yeah. But I think people aren't overlooking Kansas now this year. And it's a tough schedule, and I think it's kind of a 6-6 type team. So I took under 6.5 on Kansas. What say you?
They remind me. We talked about like what old school Texas Tech used to be, and they kind of seem to be that realm. Like they'll be very fun offensively. They'll probably be bad defensively. Be a team you like to watch. You want to be able to. The primetime television. They're playing 45, 42 games. They're kind of everybody's. They were so bad for so long that they pull the hearts. Nice to see KU back. But I agree with you. I mean, they're probably a 6-win team. Like, I don't think there's much to do in terms of, their market or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm not a buyer, not a seller. I think they'll be a fun team to watch, but probably a team that's 5, 6, 7 wins in there, without much really variation from that.
Here's what I hope you are a buyer of. I hope you're in the town. Hopefully, you're in the town in a month or so. Here, I get to see you, Knish. And hopefully you're signing up for the Circa Million 5 or the Circa Survivor. We can't forget this. $14 million. I didn't misspeak there. $14 million this year in guaranteed prizes. There is no rake. So if the entries go above the guarantee, all the extra money will go to the prize pool. Entries have opened for the last couple of months in May. They close September the 9th. So make sure you are making it to Vegas before then, because you must register in person at a Circa Sportsbook in the state of Nevada, whether you're here in town in Vegas or if you're going up north to Henderson, Sparks, Reno, you name it. Weekly picks. This is an NFL contest. They can be made through a proxy, so you don't have to live here in Vegas all year long. You just got to sign up in town. As long as you sign up through a proxy that you register with, you can play it from anywhere. Circa Million 5. What is that? $6 million in guaranteed prizes, $1,000 per entry, maximum of 5 entries per person. You pick 5 teams, NFL teams, against the spread every week. Winner takes home $1 million. There's quarterly, season-long prizes. And the worst entry, the ones with the worst record, wins $100,000. Circa Survivor, typical Survivor contest. $8 million guaranteed to the winner. It's $1,000 per entry for that one as well. You can enter as many as 10 in the Circa Survivor contest. You pick one team straight up every week to win. This isn't against the spread. It's straight up. If the team loses their ties, your entry eliminated. You're out of there. You can advance. You can keep in mind you can only pick each team one time per season, so you're not picking the Chiefs every week to advance. So what you have to do to get that $8 million, go 20-0, or be the last person standing to win. If a single person wins, they get the entire pot. And multiple people go 20-0, or multiple people are eliminated the same week to reduce the contest to 0. They split the pot. If you're wondering, 20-0, they only play, there's only 18 weeks in the regular season. Keep in mind, Thanksgiving and Black Friday combined for a week. Christmas Day is its own week. That is the Circa Million, Circa Survivor contest. Knish, we have Oklahoma State under 6.5 wins. We have Cincinnati under 5.5 wins. I took Texas over 9.5 wins. I think we took some UCF to win the conference, 40-1 or greater if it's available. Anything else? What am I missing?
No, I like that. I think we're good to go here, and this will be quite a fun conference to see year in. I think it'll be extremely competitive, and hopefully we're raising the horn. Texas is back, but hopefully we're saying Texas is back in week 12 instead of week 2 for the most part. So yeah, we're on the Quins we're in this year.
Team, I forgot to talk about West Virginia. We're going to talk about the Mountaineers in that week 1 game against Penn State. That's one line that's moving against me. I might own that one and say, if that creeps to 21, I think I'm going to rebet West Virginia. Even though I'm not a huge fan of West Virginia, I'm a huge fan of Penn State this year. That's a lot of points to lay in week one. So we'll be talking West Virginia as we do our weekly shows starting up again August the 7th. For the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. For our producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips. You have just watched Hit the Books. Make sure, guys, you are subscribed to the Hit the Books YouTube channel so you get notified in real time whenever a new episode drops, and you're following us along on Twitter. That's the show. We'll talk to you next time.